I didn't know rock bottom had a smell until the night it rained through the torn roof of my car. Wet upholstery? Old fries. Something like defeat. I remember thinking, as I curled under a thin jacket and tried to pretend the seatbelt was a blanket. This is what the end looks like. The dashboard light kept flickering on and off, like a heartbeat refusing to quit. I closed my eyes and told myself to sleep, but the rain found every crack in the seal and tapped its stubborn fingers on my forehead, saying, "You're still here. You're still here." What dropped me there wasn't one bad choice, but a long parade of small surrenders. A missed payment that turned into 3 late nights that turned into numb mornings. A marriage that cracked without either of us knowing how to hold the edges together. Then the layoff, just a weird restructuring, and a box for my desk plant. The plant lasted longer than my dignity. When the landlord changed the locks, I didn't have anywhere to go except the parking lot behind a thrift store where nobody looked twice at a tired sedan. I tried to keep the last shreds of normal. I showered at the gym when my membership still worked and learned which fast food places left a stack of napkins without asking. But quiet nights bred loud thoughts. You failed. Nobody wants you. Even God's embarrassed. One afternoon, during a dry spell between storms, I walked to the public library to charge my phone. I wasn't looking for a sermon. I just needed an outlet and a place that didn't charge rent to sit. On the community board, a flyer flapped in the AC draft. Free hot meal. No questions asked. Wednesdays at 6. I almost walked past. Pride is a hungry master, but desperation is louder. I stuffed the paper in my pocket. They served chili in the basement of a small church I'd never noticed before. White siding, a fading cross, and a maple tree in the yard that looked like it had weathered a century of thunderstorms. Inside, the smell of tomatoes and cumin took the edge off the hollow place in me. I found a seat at the end of a plastic table, scooped the chili like I had permission, and kept my eyes down. First time, a woman asked, sliding onto the chair across from me. She wasn't church polished. Her hair was a little messy, her cheeks chapped from the cold, and she wore a denim jacket with a patch that said, in small letters, Grace. "Yeah," I said, bracing for pity. Instead she nodded, took a spoonful of chili, and added, "Welcome." I waited for the ask for the form to fill, the story to spill, but she just ate with me. After a while she pointed to a Bible on the corner of the table. "There's a verse I read when my life fell apart." I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. She opened to a dog-eared page and showed me the words, "He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand." Psalm 42:2. I rolled the words on my tongue like a foreign language. Slimy pit, mud, mire? Was the psalmist sitting in a flooded car too? But the line that hooked me was the end, a firm place to stand. My life had been all quicksand lately. I didn't know such a place still existed. "Do you believe that?" I asked before I could cage the question. She didn't preach. She just pushed her bowl aside and said, "I didn't, not at first. But God did it anyway." After the meal, they offered prayer in a corner near the stack of folding chairs. I wasn't there for prayer, I was there for seconds. Still, my feet carried me toward the corner. A gray-haired man with kind eyes was praying in a quiet voice with someone else, and I stood back, embarrassed by the feeling of wanting something I couldn't define. When it was my turn, I didn't know what to say. He saved me the trouble. "How can I ask Jesus to help?" he said, like help was expected, like Jesus had already put it on his calendar. I swallowed. "I need a rock. I don't have one." He nodded like I'd told him the weather. "Let's ask for that." Then he prayed the simplest prayer. "Lord, you see your child. Lift them out. Set them on a rock. Give them a place to stand." His hand was light on my shoulder, respectful, like he knew how easily bruises bloom. No thunder rolled, no angels sang. But when I walked back up the stairs, the sky smelled cleaner after rain, and the maple leaves above me looked like open hands. That night, back in the car, I opened my phone and typed Psalm 42 into a notes app. I stared at it as if the letters themselves had weight. He lifted. He set. He gave. For the first time in months, the verbs belonged to someone other than me. The next days were not miracles so much as breadcrumbs. The woman with the grace patch, her name was Renee, found me after the next meal and asked if I needed a part-time job. "It's at the church thrift store," she said, "sorting donations. It's not glamorous, but it's honest." My voice cracked when I said yes. I showed up the next morning early enough to watch the pastor unlock the side door. He smiled without surprise, like he'd somehow expected me. "If you come on Sundays," he added, "there's coffee and those cinnamon rolls that prove God still loves the world." So I came on Sunday for a cinnamon roll and stayed because of a song I didn't know. The worship was simple: one guitar, a handful of voices, but somewhere between the verses I felt something I'm not. Tears embarrassed me. I wasn't the crying type, not when I'd learned to survive by hardening, but the tears came anyway, quietly, and nobody made a scene. A woman passed me a tissue and smiled like this is what church is for, not the cleaned up, but the falling apart. The pastor preached about how God delights in rescuing not because we earn it, but because it's his nature. He used the story of Peter sinking in the waves, crying, "Lord, save me," and Jesus immediately reaching out his hand, Matthew 14:30-31. I knew about drowning. I knew about pretending not to, but that word immediately lodged in my heart. Maybe I hadn't been invisible to God after all. Maybe I'd just been looking at the wrong rescue. 2 weeks into the thrift store job, I hit a landmine among the donation bags. A box of photo frames. The top one held a picture of a family at a beach, 2 kids, a dad with a goofy grin, a mom in a sun hat. My chest burned. I slid the photo out of the frame, setting it aside for the personal items bin. But a different piece of paper caught on the backboard. Another verse, in handwriting tidy and small. "Fear not, for I am with you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Isaiah 41:10. I looked over my shoulder like I'd been caught stealing hope. Then I tucked the paper in my pocket. I didn't know who had left these breadcrumbs of promise, but I decided to follow them. Following meant I started talking to God again. Not fancy, not long. Just small prayers like, "I'm scared. Help me show up. I don't know how to fix any of this." And sometimes, "Thank you for cinnamon rolls," because gratitude began to poke through the asphalt like small green things. When the car finally died for good, the church arranged for a tow. A mechanic in the congregation replaced the alternator, then the brake pads, and only charged me what I could afford, $20 and a promise to bring him brownies when I got back on my feet. I baked them in the church kitchen, clumsy as a middle schooler in home ec, and laughed when half of them stuck to the pan. Renee invited me to a Wednesday night Bible study. "It's small," she said. "No one's going to grill you." We sat in a circle with a few seniors, a single dad, a college kid with blue hair, and the gray-haired man who had prayed for me in the basement. We read Psalm 40 in full. He put a new song in my mouth. David wrote, "A hymn of praise to our God." I wondered if the new song was a piano ballad or just the simple melody of waking up and feeling breath in your lungs. When they asked for prayer requests, I said mine out loud. "I'm trying to believe the rock is real." Heads nodded. Hands reached. We prayed and then ate store-bought cookies, which must be what holy hospitality tastes like. The rock, I learned, didn't mean nothing shook. That would be a lie. And God isn't in the business of selling lies in stained glass packaging. My ex called one night, angry and hurting. We said things that reopened old wounds. After I hung up, I sat on the curb under the maple tree and whispered, "I'm slipping." The wind moved the leaves like a choir. In that whisper of grain, I remembered the words. He set my feet. He gave me a firm place. I pictured a hand under my elbow, steadying me as I took the next small step. I texted the pastor, "Pray for me, please." 1 minute later, my phone pinged with a simple reply, "Praying now. You're not alone." Sometimes the rock looked suspiciously like people, who knew Jesus well enough to sound like him. Month by month, stability found me the way morning finds night. It didn't happen all at once. It happened like a soft unveiling. The thrift store job turned into a steady position with slightly more hours and a lot more purpose. You've got a gift, Renee told me, for seeing what's valuable in piles most people ignore. I didn't tell her how her words sounded like God's voice, how he'd seen me in a parking lot and found treasure where I only saw trash. By spring, a couple in the church offered me their spare room while I saved for a deposit. We have a strict policy, the husband said with a wink. You have to eat with us at least once a week and tell us if you don't like the casserole. I moved in with one suitcase and an apology, and left a note on the knit stand. I don't know how to repay you. The wife wrote back, you already are. You're showing us what God's rescue looks like up close. On a Sunday morning near Easter, the pastor preached something I can still repeat by heart. The rock beneath your feet has a name. His name is Jesus. He quoted Jesus' words about building a life on the rock and not on sand, Matthew 7:24-25. I knew the difference now. Sand was my old way, trying to stand on approval, on income, on being the person other people needed me to be. Rock was new, standing on someone. It didn't make me invincible, it made me held. I was baptized that afternoon in a portable tub under the maple tree. When I came up out of the water, it ran into my ears, down my back, onto the grass. And for one bright second, the world looked like it had been washed. People clapped and shouted. Renee hugged me hard enough to rearrange my spine. And the gray-haired man said nothing, just gave me a thumbs up that made me laugh. A year from the night the rain tapped me awake, I signed a lease on a small studio with a window that looks east. On the first morning, I brewed cheap coffee and watched the light pour in. I wrote Psalm 42 on an index card and taped it to the mirror. He lifted me. He set me. He gave me. I added another verse I'd fallen in love with along the way. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:2-4. The best part of the rescue wasn't the job or the room or the car that finally started without a prayer and a threat. It was the presence. God had been with me in the floodwater and with me on the dry ground. The rock wasn't far away. It had been beneath me all along. I just couldn't feel it until I let myself be lifted. Sometimes I still drive past the old parking lot. The thrift store sign squeaks in the wind, and the asphalt keeps its secrets. I pull over for a second, turn off the engine, and listen to the quiet that used to scare me. I think of the versions of me that sat in this seat, tired, ashamed, starving for mercy, and I whisper a thank you that feels like prayer. Then I go home to my small studio where the index card waits on the mirror, and I stand steady while I brush my teeth, while I lace my shoes, while I step into a life I never thought I'd be trusted with again. If you feel the mud and mire sucking at your ankles, if the night seems louder than hope, hear this from someone who smelled rock bottom and found it wasn't the end. The one who loved you enough to climb into a manger and onto a cross is not afraid of your pit. Call to him. Ask for the rock. He knows the way from sinking to standing. He is the way. Share and comment this if you believe God still writes the best stories.